On Tech News Today, the U.S. and China just signed a huge free trade agreement around technology. Your gadgets are about to get cheaper. AT&T says they'll stop investing in fast fiber until the net neutrality rules are settled, and Apple fixed their iMessage problem, but that won't save them from a lawsuit. Stick around. Tech News Today is next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, November 12th, 2014. This episode is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster, easier, and cheaper. Post your job to 50-plus job boards with one click. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. Now introducing Squarespace 7 with even better site management tools and other improvements. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan, and I am not Anthony Nielsen. He is right over there. How's it going, Anthony?
I'm doing good. How are you, Mike?
Good. I have brought you another complicated and difficult show, and I know you love a good challenge.
Yeah, I do. Well,
wonderful. Speaking of big challenges, today is an interesting day in the sense that today mankind landed on a comet. I mean, come on, this is like huge. We've crashed into comets before, which, if you've ever, landed something on another planetary body, it's easier to crash into it than it is to land on it. We don't have any video, at least when I was preparing for the show, we didn't have video or pictures from the surface of the comet. But what you're looking at here is a selfie that was taken by the what's it called, the Rosetta spacecraft as it was nearing the comet. This comet is 300 million miles away. It's going 41,000 miles an hour. And it's not new. It's 4.5 billion years old. Now, I want to give you something really interesting. Now, this is something that's starting to make the rounds. Comets make noise. And what we're going to be listening to here are sounds caused by the oscillations in the magnetic fields around a comet's environment. It's way below human hearing. You can't hear it, even if there was air in space. So this is essentially sped up 10,000 times. But essentially, if you speed up the sound of a comet, this is what a comet sounds like. Sounds like it's hungry.
It's very eerie.
Yeah. It's very, very cool stuff there. Comets are very noisy. They're weird. They have variable gravitational fields. They're always throwing off material. They're quite fascinating, and we're going to be hopefully learning quite a bit of it now that the European Space Agency has landed on a comet. Basically, the harpoons apparently may not have worked, but that the landing feet of the probe have screws in them, and those have apparently successfully screwed themselves into the comet's surface. So this thing is on the surface, and it seems to be functioning, and it's very, very exciting. Well, let's get into the tech news. The United States and China reached a big free trade agreement yesterday that'll cut tariffs for technology products. It's the first such pact in 20 years. The deal has been in the works for years and years and adds over 250 kinds of products to the 1996 Information Technology Agreement between the two countries, with more than 200 categories of products seeing the total elimination of tariffs. The White House says that medical equipment, GPS devices, video game consoles, computer software, and next-generation semiconductors are among the product categories that will see total elimination of all tariffs between the two countries. Shawn Donnan wrote about it for Financial Times and joins us now. Welcome, Shawn.
Thanks for having me.
Now, how will this deal affect consumers in the United States and China?
So I was going to bed last night thinking about this, and it's a very simple thing. You've got to think about the world of 1996, and then you've got to think about everything that came in tech afterwards, and imagine that has actually been subject to tariffs and the vagaries of the trade world ever since. The whole idea here is to update it, to bring us out of the world of 1996 when it comes to tech and tech products and the trade in tech products around the world, and to bring us into the 21st century. So start with video game consoles. It's not going to happen in time for this Christmas, but we should see those prices go down, or at least tariffs on them come down. It always depends on whether companies pass them on to the consumers. GPSs, Bluetooth headsets, if people still use those, but lots of Bluetooth products, certainly. I mean, it's the world of 1996 kind of fast forwarding to the world of 2014.
So what you're saying is that portable cassette players and 8-bit video games were covered, but like everything that's come since then in the millions of products, the smartphones, everything have not been covered. And so this is probably a great way to lower prices rather than, having cheaper materials or whatever. This is just the elimination of some of these probably unnecessary taxes. Now, how is this going to affect producers and manufacturers in both countries?
So, I mean, one point to make clear is that these negotiations have been deadlocked for the last 18 months because the Chinese have been trying to exclude something like 100 or over 100 products from that list of 200, 250 that you mentioned at the start. The Americans or the U.S. has been working to unlock that and to get the Chinese to bring that list down, and that's what they've done, and that's what was announced yesterday. It still has to go back to Geneva, and we still have to finish this up with I think there's almost 80 countries. It might even be 80 countries that are involved in other countries that are involved in that. But this was the big one. This is the big consumer in terms of the tech sector and the big producer in terms of the tech sector, the big exporter certainly, unlocking their differences. And we go back and we bring in some of the smaller players in that. Still some pretty big players like Japan and Korea and so on. On the producer side of things, look, this is. This should open up China to lots of American products, GPSs, medical devices. People were very concerned. The U.S. was incredibly concerned about opening up the Chinese market for what they call next generation semiconductors and all the products that contain those. They think that's a real area where the U.S. has a competitive advantage. So it should be easier after this all comes in for U.S. tech producers to export to China. It should also be easier for Chinese tech producers to export into the U.S.
It sounds good on its surface, although, free trade agreements tend to be pretty controversial. Sometimes they wipe out entire industries in one country or another, or seem to favor one country and another. They're probably fairer than people think, but they see the downsides and don't necessarily see the upsides. So we'll see how this lands, and we'll see how this spreads across to other countries and so on. But it's I guess, good to break through that 18-month deadlock and actually make some progress. Shawn Donnan writes at FT.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at SDonnan. That's SDONNAN. Thanks for joining us, Shawn Donnan.
Thanks for having me.
All right, in just a sec, we're going to tell you about the new news in net neutrality. But first, I want to tell you about ZipRecruiter. You want to succeed in life. If you're a hiring manager, you own a small company, or you run a small company, if you ever hire and fire people, you want to do a lot better hiring and you want to do a lot less firing. You'll succeed if you have good people, and finding good people is really hard to do these days. The economy is back again. We're no longer in the Great Recession. And so a lot of the best people already have jobs. So the people who are still looking for jobs are harder and harder to find, especially since they're scattered all over the internet. And that's where ZipRecruiter can really come in handy. You can post your job to 50 plus job sites, including Craigslist, LinkedIn, Twitter, and dozens more. You can find candidates in any city, in any industry, nationwide. You just post it once and watch your qualified candidates roll in. With ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface, you're going to bring in lots and lots of candidates. You're going to have so many respondents to your job, and that can be a problem in itself, because who has time to weed through all kinds of applications, most of which are probably not going to be exactly the qualified person you're looking for. And ZipRecruiter helps you with that. They filter out the most qualified candidates, so you can just go through the qualified candidates that meet your requirements, and you can hire them fast. So find out why ZipRecruiter has been used by more than 250,000 businesses. Right now, our audience can try ZipRecruiter for a free 4-day trial. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's free for 4 days. You can hire a lot of people in 4 days. You got to try this. This is the way to hire people and do it right. We thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today. We reported Monday on President Obama's call for net neutrality, but now telecom giant AT&T says it'll pause investments to bring fiber connections to 100 cities until the U.S. government finalizes its rules. AT&T CEO Randall Stevenson said, quote, "We can't go out and invest that kind of money deploying fiber to 100 cities, not knowing what kind of rules those investments will be governed." Brian Fung writes for The Washington Post and joins us now. Welcome to you, Brian Fung.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Now, what is AT&T trying to accomplish here exactly?
Well, AT&T has been in the midst of considering rolling out high-speed fiber optic broadband to about 100 cities. And in that respect, it's been in kind of a race with its competitor, Google Fiber. But it now seems as though AT&T is holding back, saying until the FCC develops clearer rules on net neutrality, which the principle is the principle that all internet traffic should be treated equally, that AT&T will hold off on its plans to roll out faster, better broadband.
Randall Stevenson sounds like a big baby to me. It sounds like he's basically saying we were investing in all this stuff, and we really want there to be no net neutrality. We want to be able to charge what we want for better service and so on. And all the carriers are opposing absolute net neutrality and the reallocation of carriers of internet providers as common carriers. And so he's basically holding his breath and folding his arms and saying, we're not going to do this thing that everybody wants unless we get our way. Or is this something else there? Is this a reasonable position to say that they can't really make those kinds of investments unless they know the regulatory environment?
Well, I think both could be true at the same time. The FCC is in the middle of trying to develop its regulations for an open internet, and AT&T has signaled that it will sue if it doesn't like the result, namely if the FCC decides to reclassify internet providers as common carriers and regulate them more heavily. What AT&T and other broadband providers have argued is that they need the flexibility to develop new business models and find new ways of drawing in revenue, especially at a time when demand for broadband internet is going up, and that's putting pressure on them to find new ways of making money.
Brian, you mentioned that AT&T is locked in a battle with Google and others. Doesn't this put them at a huge disadvantage? Aren't they essentially announcing to their competitors that we're just going to stop and let you go, you competitors go forward and get ahead of us?
That's certainly a question and a concern. There's been some talk about just how serious a lot of these companies are at rolling out fiber optic broadband. Some have even characterized it as it's fiber to the press release, in that a lot of these companies say they're rolling out broadband or rolling out fiber optics, but haven't really made a concrete commitment. They need to. This is just sort of lip service. So from that perspective, it's really no skin off of AT&T's back to say, these plans that we had in the works, we're going to put a stop to them because it's unclear how far AT&T actually has gone in implementing that plan. As for Google Fiber, Google's strategy here, you could say, is predicated on getting other internet providers to build out their own networks so that Google doesn't have to be the one to be building everything. And so to the extent that this is a battle between Google Fiber and AT&T, I would say that AT&T would theoretically be ceding some ground to Google if it actually did stop the rollout of fiber. On the other hand, the fact that if you interpret this as a move by AT&T to try and get the FCC to do its bidding, then if you believe that AT&T is essentially bluffing here, then it's really not that big a deal for AT&T to say to Google Fiber, you can have some more territory, I guess.
Interesting. And AT&T has other means of pressuring the government, namely that they're a massive campaign contributor. They're one of the largest contributors to the U.S. government among all organizations and companies. So they're going to be putting on a full court press on this. I think they really don't want net neutrality. Brian Fung is at WashingtonPost.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at @B_Fung, F-U-N-G. Thank you for joining us, Brian.
Thanks again.
Yahoo yesterday announced that it intends to acquire Brightroll for $640 million in cash. Brightroll is a platform for selling and delivering video ads. The company is interesting in part because it uses an instantaneous computerized matching process. Matt Rosoff writes for Business Insider and joins us now. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great, thanks. Will this give Yahoo an advantage in selling video ads, or are they just playing catch up here?
Well, it gives them a lot of scale between Yahoo's existing video ad network and Brightwell. They're now the largest video ad provider in the United States. There's been some question, perhaps whether Yahoo paid too much for this, and about Yahoo's ability to integrate it into the rest of the company. It seems to me like Marissa Mayer is following a strategy that worked very well for Google, which is growing through acquisitions. And they have bought made some other big acquisitions under her, like Tumblr and so on. So this is sort of along the same lines as that.
Now, AOL recently acquired Adapt TV, and Facebook recently acquired LiveRail. How does Brightroll compare to those two acquisitions?
It's mainly a larger company. They're buying scale, and I think that what Brightroll does is they really act as sort of a middleman between a bunch of people with video content and advertisers with a lot of programmatic ad buying. So it's along the same lines, but I really think that there's some competition here. Everybody's chasing YouTube, and that's what Yahoo's trying to do.
It's pretty much of a no-brainer because Brightroll is growing and profitable, and its net revenue is expected to exceed $100 million. So right off the bat, it's going to be making money. It's not like some acquisitions where they're losing money and they bring them in and sort of fold them into the accounting of the entire company. They don't really have to do that. They're going to be making money from this. The entire digital video advertising is expected to total about $5.96 billion this year in the U.S., and of course, it's growing very, very fast. Matt Rosoff is at businessinsider.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Matt. I'm going to spell that MATTROSOFF. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right. We told you this week about Apple's new tool for unregistering iMessage accounts for iPhone users who switch to Android or other non-Apple platforms, but that didn't stop Apple from facing a federal lawsuit. U.S. District Judge Lucy Koh in San Jose, California, that's the same Lucy Koh who's been presiding over the Apple-Samsung patent court cases, says that a lawsuit brought by a woman named Adrienne Moore can go forward. Moore had switched from an iPhone 4 to a Galaxy S5 and claims that Apple blocked her text messages from being delivered to her new Samsung phone. Shawn Nichols is a reporter for The Register and joins us now. Hey, Shawn.
Hi, Mike.
Thanks for joining us. Now, can you describe the iMessage problem that switchers had? For example, did this affect only messages from other iPhone users directly, or did it affect text messages as well?
Yeah, this was really just for iMessages that were sent. It's kind of a little bit of a limbo area in that if you have an iOS device, specifically an iPhone in this case, and then you try to switch to an Android device or another device, Apple doesn't automatically log you out of iMessage. So you end up with users whose devices think that they're sending messages through iMessage to an iOS device, and in fact, it's just kind of getting lost, just kind of getting stuck because there's nothing there to receive it anymore. Your Android phone is only trying to get SMS messages, so you just don't really see what's coming up on the iMessage, and that can be incredibly frustrating for people on the other end because they're just seeing messages sent, but they're not actually getting any response from you, and you can't really see anything.
I think it's curious that we learned of Apple's fix for this, essentially a tool that decouples iPhone accounts or phone numbers from iMessage, and that news at least hit this week just as the lawsuit hit. This has been a problem for a long, long time. Do you think that Apple's tool for decoupling iMessage was a response to this complaint, or was that just coincidental?
It generally does. I think Apple, more so than any other firm, really isn't that interested in helping you if you're trying to get rid of their device or get off of their platform. And generally, so they do kind of need to be prodded or poked a little bit more about these things. And I think in this case, Apple has had some procedures and things like that, but they haven't really been very publicized or talked about much. So I think now that this is getting a little bit more traction, they are kind of having to move to, okay, let's step this up a little bit. Let's make it a little easier for people to kind of get out of this limbo state.
Shouldn't this be a class action suit? I mean, we only have one plaintiff. Aren't there lots and lots of people who suffered from this problem?
Well, possibly. I mean, this is very early on in this process as well. This ruling was only the judge denying Apple's request to have this thrown out. So it's entirely possible that we'll see a class action, or we'll see it elevated or amended in some way.
Shawn Nichols writes at theregister.co.uk, and you can follow him on Twitter at Shawn D. Nichols. Thanks for joining us, Shawn. TechCrunch is reporting that Amazon is expanding its R&D operations in Cambridge in the UK. The company plans a large research staff that will expand the operation it bought along with its acquisition of Cambridge-based speech tech startup Evie Technology about 2 years ago. The research will focus on two things. First, its drone delivery project, that's right, Amazon Air, or whatever it's called, Prime Air, whatever that's called, and speech technology possibly for its Echo virtual assistant product. In terms of the drone technology, while it's great news for Cambridge, it sadly could be yet another example of testing and research being forced abroad by the American ban on flying drones commercially. Reuters is reporting that at least two major Yahoo shareholders have approached AOL CEO Tim Armstrong to explore a merger between Yahoo and AOL, and then for Armstrong to run the combined company. The report says Armstrong's been receptive, but only if it's a friendly merger. The investors believe that combined companies could save $1.5 billion. Got some updates for you coming up, but first I want to tell you about Squarespace. I've always loved Squarespace. Super, super easy to use. Super, super beautiful website that you get at the end of it. And the great thing about Squarespace now is that Squarespace 7 has been introduced, and it makes Squarespace super, super easy to use. Squarespace 7 lets you live edit on screen. You know how great that is if you're a blogger, if you're building a website? This is just so easy that literally anybody can build a website that looks like it was built by a huge team of very professional experts, from designers to engineers to webmasters or whatever. You can do it all with Squarespace. It's super easy. Instant branding email set up with Google Apps. The developer platform is out of beta, so if you're a developer, you definitely want to use Squarespace. The developer tools are now top shelf. One of the great things, we've been talking about this for a long time. One of the things about Squarespace that's awesome is that it's super great for mobile on both sides. Of course, if you've got a mobile device, the Squarespace websites always look fantastic on a phone, on a tablet, even a tiny phone like an old iPhone. It looks really great because Squarespace will recreate the website on the fly. But if you're running your site, for a long time, Squarespace has offered iOS-based tools for managing your site. Now they have an Android one too. So now if you have an Android phone and you want to manage your site on the go, you can do it very easily with Squarespace's shiny new Android app. So start a free 2-week trial with no credit card required and start building your website. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code TNT, and that'll get you 10% off the already incredibly low price. And you'll also show your support for Tech News Today, and I appreciate that. To begin using Squarespace 7, existing customers just need to go to the Settings tab and activate all the wonderful new goodies. And we thank Squarespace for their support of Tech News Today. And remember that a better web awaits, and it starts with your new Squarespace website. Well, Amazon unveiled yesterday a new Cloud Drive API, which enables third-party developers to integrate Cloud Drive access into their own applications. Amazon claims that the API will handle the details of differing screen resolutions, metadata management, indexing, search, and sync, so developers don't have to. The API will also be available in other developer tools also like FilePicker and Tembu. The European Commission's new antitrust chief, Makayde Vestea, hope I'm saying that right, says she wants to meet with those most directly affected by Google's alleged anti-competitive practices, including vertical search engines like Yelp and Foundum, consumer rights groups, and online publishers. In other news, China's Tencent yesterday rolled out a competitor to Skype called WeChat Phonebook. The app enables 438 million global WeChat users to make free phone calls with their smartphones to other WeChat users. The app is available for Android and iOS. The launch isn't off to a great start, though. The service has already been barely functioning, and with dropped calls and missed connections, the company's Weibo account blames strong interest in the app for all those problems. Our TNT fan of the day is Keith Kaiser in Louisville, Kentucky, who multitasks, listening to the show while doing other stuff around the house. You know, I've noticed that everybody from Kentucky who sends in one of these pictures is always mowing the lawn. They must have a lot of grass in Kentucky, bluegrass, I imagine. So really fantastic. How do you watch or listen to TNT? Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. We want more from Facebook. All of our submissions come from Google+, and Twitter. We know some of you are using Facebook out there, so post some on Facebook as well. And use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT no matter where you post it, and we'll find it. So that is the Tech News Today. You can subscribe to Tech News Today on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Feedly, Yahoo, RSS. So many ways to subscribe. Just go to twit.tv/TNT and choose your favorite way. You can also follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV and subscribe to our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. And please always send us your thoughts and opinions. Tell us what's on your mind. Send us email to tnt@twit.tv or call us at 260-TNT-SHOW. And don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name is Mike Elgan. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.